هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس.
باقي على الفرحة السنوية رمضاننا قرب شوق فيها يلا بنا على باب الله ندعي سوية ربي بلغنا رمضان يا عينيا جينا نهنيكم يا اخوان وكلنا بهجة وإحسان شهر الصيام باقي له قليل يهل علينا بالإيمان يهل علينا بالإيمان قولوا لي كم باقي على الفرحة السنوية رمضاننا قرب شوق فيها يلا بنا على باب الله ندعي سوية ربي بلغنا رمضان يا عينيا.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ما شاء الله, just a nice jingle to set the mood. Is my sound okay? Just a nice jingle to set the mood. And when I see these guys, and that's the old one, when I see them all together in a picture or a video, then I know it's almost Ramadan. And they dropped the picture. They haven't released this year's one yet.
Okay.
But they had a picture, like a teaser, that it has been recorded, inshallah ta'ala, and it will be released soon. And so I look forward to that every year, that jingle.
Like the turbans.
Like it's a Makki type of a thing. And
are they from Medina?
What are they from? What are they from Makkah? Hijazi. What's the name? Is it a derogative to say takaroni? I think they it's not like
takaroni. When I hear the term takaroni, I have a specific. They
are black African.
Akhawat. No, but the akhawat are specifically those who look after the chamber of Rasulullah.
Okay.
But takaronis, when the people used to describe to me takaronis,
it's a black Arab.
It's the like Abyssinian background or Sudanese or something, and they look very much effeminate. Yeah.
No, but I just, in my experience, it was used on a black Arab. And it's a whole thing amongst Arabs, because sometimes like the people in Jeddah, Mecca, some of them have this Chinese or Malaysian features. Some of them are black. Some of them are white, like Turkish features. And then like more towards Najd, those people will say the leftover Hujjaj. They weren't like...
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Al-Hajj.
They stayed behind here. So like, an example of that is Sheikh Amir Bahjat, right? Who's one of the great Hanbali scholars of like the man. How old is he? He's not even 40. He's got like
he looks young. He does.
I think he's 2 years older than me. So he's 36, right? He's got the PhD.
And he's accomplished.
He's got like, and besides that, he teaches in the Haram of Medina, of the Prophet ﷺ. And he travels the world, right? I recently saw a video of him. It's an old video where he was in Mauritania. So he took all the usul fiqh books of the different madhabs and he makes it into a manzuma. Yeah. And then he goes to ulama, then he recites it to them. So I saw a video of him in Deoban. On Deoban, where he went to Darul Deoban and he read Rasmul Mufti, which is basically the book that you study to become a mufti, right? He recited it from memory to the mashayikh over there. And then there was a clip of him going to Mauritania. We met the Shanatiqa. And he said, was it not that I was from the people of Medina, then I would have loved to be a Shinkiti. It's amazing, man. Like, the scholar is like, but even him, if you look at his background,
what's his origin?
I don't think he's
like many other. I mean, like we have, like in amongst the Qurra, Shaykh Bakr Shatri. He's
Yemeni.
not Saudi, he's Yemeni. Even in the English-speaking du'at, amongst the English-speaking du'at,
Ashim al-Hakim.
Yeah, he's Malaysian or something.
Indonesian, that background. Yeah.
I think he's like.
But obviously, they were born in Saudi.
Yeah,
they know nothing else.
I met an older uncle in Al Qasim who told me he remembers a time when he went for Umrah or Hajj with his family, and they used to sell Saudi citizenship for a riyal outside of the haram and nobody wanted to buy. That's now before they struck
Oil
oil.
boom.
They were looking for people to come and live there.
That's before the oil boom,
Yeah, but now, it's the land of milk and honey. Everybody wants to be there. Inshallah, if it's good for you, then you end up there. And if Allah has better plans for you, then
you'll stay just
Shaykh. So alhamdulillah.
Look, I wanted to interact with the audience.
Please do.
I wanted maybe to drop us some likes and some comments over there. What has been? Ilm Hub has been in existence for how long now?
For a year.
No, with the previous brand as well.
2 or 3 years.
So we need some, this is the best episode that I've ever watched. This was my favorite episode. These words of wisdom from Moulana Ebrahim Benting was my favorite. We want to hear stuff like that from our people.
Inshallah. And I just opened the software that we use, right? It's called StreamYard. And I received the email 6 days ago because I never checked that email that they have this new
facility.
The new facility where it takes out the small snippets, man.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, our content is quite long. Not everybody has an hour. Sometimes people think that social media mashayikh, right, make these short clips, but it's actually part of a
longer lecture, that has been extracted,
podcast. Because Joe Rogan, how long is that
podcast? Like 2-3 hours.
So podcasts are quite long, and not everybody has that attention span, right? And so we have to have this tidbits for those who.
But podcasting is still new in South Africa. People don't know what a podcast is.
Yeah, so I used to say it's a TV show.
Yeah,
so when I say podcast, you said you mean a TV show. So I said no, we're not Oprah Winfrey or Dr. Phil. Or sit man in Prat.
But I think
we can't do a podcast without soil.
No, we can't.
We can't. We tried it. We tried it. It failed miserably.
But how many other podcasts are there? I know radio stations are going to podcasting now.
Yeah.
They call it podcasting though.
Yes.
Different radio stations.
It's like an off-the-cuff thing. I don't know how licensing works then. If you like this Oli Casa thing, and because then you have to follow certain rules and you have to read out that disclaimer all the time. I find it often when I'm on a radio station, they read that disclaimer. I hardly ever hear the disclaimer. I hardly ever hear the disclaimer. When I'm there, I hear the disclaimer. But I think, obviously it's to keep yourself safe, man.
Definitely.
You can say something. I mean, like our brother Andrew Tate, and things like that gets misunderstood, misconstrued.
Yeah, you see, it's like people take a 6-second clip extract from a 2-hour lecture.
Yeah.
No context, nothing before, nothing after, and then they push that, and then people get, the wrong impression.
The clarity is somewhat compromised. And so last week we spoke about clarity, Sheikh. And we spoke about the heart being like the moon.
No.
The moon shining, and then sometimes we go through slumps. And this week we speak about either avoiding the dark cloud or trying, because the dark cloud can committed Muslim, somebody's heart who's attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can he have a dark cloud? Because the hadith mentioned that every heart has that cloud that comes over. But we specifically spoke about dark clouds. So the clouds are of different nature, different colors.
Density,
yeah.
So technically, can a Muslim be depressed?
Can a Muslim go through spiritual slumps, if you can call it that? Definitely.
Okay.
One of the fundamental aspects of our Aqidah is what?
Iman increases and decreases.
Exactly.
Didn't Rasulullah go through depression? Didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then send the consolation? Isn't that consolation, that specific surah, the blueprint for us when we go through that?
And what surah is that?
Surah Al-Duha. Now, so definitely a Muslim can go through patches, or if in regards to mental health, they can go through dark clouds, depression, and all of these things, anxiety, and similarly spiritual slumps where you feel like, I don't have the energy for ibadah and for worship and stuff like that. So that's a given, inshallah. But tonight,
sometimes you hear people say, how can a person that believes in Allah have depression, man? Sometimes we go to an imam or a khatib or someone who's not equipped in these matters, and he would say, even matters of marriage, man, just pray together, make salah together.
No, but that's the. I always say that that's the answer of an untrained individual, man. Like it's like asking someone who's pious, can he become ill, man? Can I physically sick with? Yes, we all. So similarly, someone who is pious can also become mentally ill.
Yes,
You know.
definitely.
I hope the people are commenting, inshallah.
Yeah, that's the reason why they took my
Alhamdulillah.
device away. So yeah, asking an untrained individual, right, something out of his scope, then you're gonna get a answer that's not that you shouldn't be
And
following.
those type of answers now lead to chaos in society. Because I mean, as students of Deen, people who dedicate their lives to the study of Islam and to the sources of Islam, we take offense. Obviously, if people speak, this is our field of expertise. We've spent time learning the Quran, learning the Sunnah, learning the related science of Islam. When people speak and they're not trained in the sciences of Islam, we take offense.
It boggles my mind that you're still in 2023 when you have social media and you have radio stations and you have satellite stations and really access to scholars, that people, and with all due respect, will still ask Haji Fulan and Haji this a question with regards to Deen.
Yeah.
Do you think there's like a gap between, I don't like using this term, but like the layman and
now I feel we live in a society where there's a great disrespect for expertise. People don't, because of the internet boom, the information boom that we're living in, people don't really, respect expertise. Right? No one's going to take the chance operating on someone or advising the person to take certain medications and stuff like that without knowledge. But when it comes to the Deen, it's like a free for all.
Yeah, because a person thinks that ultimately that can cause a person's death, physical death, but now you're causing his spiritual death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I always think about that guy who killed 99 people and then he went to the wrong person.
And
got the wrong answer.
He got killed, yeah. My teacher used to say,
don't answer if you don't know.
No, he said, a half-baked doctor, a quack, is a danger to Jan, life. But a half-baked mullah is a danger to Iman.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I used to say that,
Yeah.
rahimahullah. So it's important that and this is also not only Islam, but in all other aspects of life, man. I was told many times, why do you want to do a university course in that? You just download the information, you just do this. I pay someone privately and, I do that course, which that person spent 4 years studying. I can do that course in 2 weeks. Why do you want to study for a teacher? You can just download, do this, do that, and you're a teacher. It's a lack of respect for expertise, And if you don't have a respect for expertise, we live in a world of specialization. Everything is specialized. Die man wat die skroefie maak, hy's 'n specialization. Die man wat die mic ding maak, everything.
And that two people taught me that, right? My father is an artisan, gebouwman. He's a bricklayer. He will never even, I'm sure he can plaster, maybe tile, but anything out of his scope, he will not do.
Won't do, yeah.
He will not do, and he will not be responsible for it. And similarly, medical doctors, man, because with the birth of my son, then you won't find the gynae now checking on the baby. The gynae is looking after the mommy. The ped comes and looks after the
They stay
baby,
within their lane.
and then there's somebody, the anesthetist. But when it comes to Islamic knowledge, sometimes you'll find one guy doing.
But how
everything.
normal can you be? How normal can you be to pass yourself off as something and
that you're not.
in your heart that you're not that person? I mean, we shy away from certain things. If they say, we were at a wedding together the other day, they say, can all the ulama come to the front? And we sit and everyone is looking at us and we'll... Because
you don't consider yourself
shy, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have modesty.
But again, my father says, well, my father gets angry. But it's another thing if they call you by name, man.
It's different, yeah.
It's different.
But it's like you don't feel worthy of that, man.
Yes.
Sheikh, I don't know if you know Shaykh Muhammad Ismail Muqaddam, one
No.
of the
Alexandria.
one of the scholars of
Hadith.
Iskandariya. Yeah. So one night he came out of the mud. Now the Sheikh always just wears a doily and a thawb. So it was raining and somebody put the mishlah over him because it was raining. So he said, take it off. This is the clothing of the ulama. Right? So he didn't consider himself qualified not qualified, but he didn't feel that this was for him. And similarly, Shaykh Ishaq al-Huwaini, he speaks about seeing the red cap, the Azari cap. And he says,
Why do they call that Azari cap?
Imam, I don't know.
Is it special?
Shakula, I don't know what I call it, but the Azari
You
cap.
should wear yours.
When you graduated, did you wear yours?
I don't wear anything. I like a doily. I like a cap.
Nah, you need to represent the institution of learning.
Like he says, when he sees it, he still gets, he
Like-
still fears. He still has that You know, he
Haiba.
becomes jittery because it's like something.
Subhanallah.
But I see his son will wear it. But the cap that Sheikh Abi Ishaq wears is also an Azhari kind of
Style,
the
style
white
cap.
one.
The white one, yeah.
style
Deep,
cap.
deep, yeah.
Now Sheikh Sha'arawi, right? He wore that.
The
Sheikh
sides are
Mutawalli
up
Sha'arawi.
and the inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The sides are hard and the
inside is
and
puppy.
I never saw him wear the Azhari cap, and there was a reason for it because he was up to becoming Shaykh al-Azhar in his time.
Oh, Sheikh Sha'arawi.
Sheikh Sha'arawi.
Okay.
But then apparently, I don't know if this is verified, but a friend of his or some colleague was also up for it.
And so he said,
usually the Shaykh al-Azhar is the one that, because you do find scholars in Azhar that wear the suit. They wear the suit. They won't wear
thobes.
So they never become Shaykh al-Azhar because Shaykh al-Azhar always wears. Or once they become Shaykh al-Azhar, they wear it. Sheikh Sha'arawi chose to wear that white cap not to get that
position.
That position. Because
Okay.
he was steering away from it.
I saw Sheikh Abi Ishaq al-Huwaini's tahqiq came out on Ibn Kathir.
Tafsir Ibn Kathir, mashallah.
And according to many, it's the best current.
And the Sheikh is still working. I think.
How old is the Sheikh?
Sheikh Abi Ishaq can be
80 odd.
pushing for 70.
70.
Yeah.
You can see he's young in his face. It's just
he's not that old. Yeah,
he's got a grey beard. Yeah, white beard.
Mashallah. And
Mashallah.
I think he speaks about his visits to Sheikh Al-Albani, and the Sheikh still pushing the last working, actually strapping himself to a desk in Jordan to get the tahqiqat out. And I think that's what Sheikh Abi Ishaq is pushing for. And in the video, just before they amputated his leg, he said he wants to meet Allah standing. Right? So that's how he wants to go out, pushing books. So you find the Sheikh is just pushing out tahqiqat. And I think it's actually more work getting done because now he has his sons working with him. And I think they're dedicated to that. Imagine you have your sons with him. Because he always said his books are his sons.
And that post that I tagged you in, he says that,
And he will spend most of his time.
Manzilati abna'i. But he's got a young son that I saw with him, but looks like a cat.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't look like
not Hatim.
Yeah, the others have big beards and stuff like that. But this one...
You can't... there must be somebody.
Don't say the swatch copy. I was going to say
that. He's always the one that pushing his father's wheelchair and stuff like that. So he has
maybe he's dedicating his life to that.
But Sheikh, coming back to the hadith, so we have dark clouds. How to avoid it? Sheikh, you were speaking?
No, I got a smile when he said Sheikh Albani. Then he was speaking about my teacher said this and my teacher said that. As I snags wil gewees het, dan skree hy.
Wat dat?
Hy skree vir my. Kom eens Albani.
Yeah, that's the honor.
That's the honor. Well, Sheikh, so the dark clouds, right? Everybody has clouds, but everybody's cloud is not dark.
Clouds differ intensity in how big they are and how small they are and how long they stay, how short or long the stay is. So depending on how do you get out of that dark patch in your life. That is, I think, that is the aim of the discussion tonight.
Yeah, and then I think we ended off on a note where we spoke about that every action has the time of enthusiasm.
Yeah, لكل عمل شرة.
And then you go into a fatra.
And all of us go through that fatra,
But then the Prophet ﷺ says, when you go into that slump, just don't steer away from the sunnah.
At least stick to the sunnah,
Because one can be really, you can make a lot of damage.
Yeah.
You can be destructive when you are in that slump because where you were took time. Right? Where you were in Iman. Like, fasting Mondays and Thursdays came naturally when you weren't married. And you were a student and you're struggling to get married, financial reasons, or you want to be focused on your studies. And when I was studying, I got married at 24, but that was relatively old for my circle of colleagues back then. Because
people got married 18 years
18, 19. I'm the eldest of my siblings, but my sister got married at 17. I got married, she's younger than me by 2 years. And I got married at 24. So everybody else was getting married. For some other reason, for whatever reason, I didn't get married. But then you fast Mondays and Thursdays to keep focused, right?
Allah.
So it comes naturally, but then you kind of slip away, and then you think. But at one point, I fasted Mondays and Thursdays. At one point, I used to pray during the night
regularly at the masjid.
At one point,
Jamaat Salah.
now I'm praying at home. Now I'm not doing what I used to do. So that's already the slip. You're already slipping away, but now you become destructive during that time. So you need to know yourself. And, you shouldn't beat yourself up with regards to where you are. Because the prophecy, every heart goes through that.
Khair, inshallah.
So how do we remove the dark clouds here?
So a few beautiful ways, inshallah, to remove this dark cloud is the Sheikh mentions, Hafidhahullah, is still alive, Ali Barghouthi.
Ali Barghouthi. I mean, it's just by coincidence. Lots of
Sheikh,
colleagues are doing
using
this.
this book.
Using this
Using
book
the
as
book,
a manual.
I think they're secretly watching our podcast and they're taking because that's the first time I saw that specific colleague posting that book.
Is it?
Yeah, wallahi. Because his stuff pops up on my feed all the time.
Okay.
And he's doing like a lot of stuff. Sahih
At the same
al-Bukhari.
time, no?
Yeah.
No, Sahih al-Bukhari, this
One
tafsir.
night, yeah.
But then suddenly this
I also
popped
saw
up and he said he has a class on this. So I'm thinking that the Sheikh saw and he thought, like, let me take benefit.
No, but I find the book amazing.
It's an amazing book. It's well written.
It's easy.
Language, beautiful, simple language.
System also.
Very beautiful. It's a
It's
journal.
like a manual. It's a guide.
It's a guide, yeah. It's a guide.
The maslak of the book is it says that this is the default setting of the heart. It's got two sides to it.
Yeah.
Right? إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله.
No.
So that's the default setting. Then you don't have a choice in that. You don't really have a choice. Your heart is central. Everybody's heart is central.
It's volatile.
And everybody's
central.
heart is volatile also. And then the very next hadith says that, but the fitan of the heart you can control. Because that is
What you expose the heart
what
to.
you expose the heart
Definitely.
to. The
So
company that you keep.
Sheikh, so the black clouds that come. So the clouds are going to come, but the differs in density. So what you expose your heart to causes the dark clouds?
The dark
Definitely.
clouds.
No, definitely.
So music and these
All
type
of those things, music,
The type of company,
the company you
that
keep.
you keep.
all of those things cause it, yeah.
Even the schooling system, man. People are really fearing sending the kids to school. Like this morning, I saw on Instagram somebody had a snippet of a textbook in the UK where there's a hijabi girl, right? There's a cartoon.
I saw that.
And this girl says, I'm Fatima, I'm bisexual. I used to think that I could be either Muslim or bisexual.
But now I realize you can be both.
I can be both.
Yeah.
And so
I
they're
saw
pushing this, I mean, even
aggressively.
That's why I said, that's why I said you want to grapple. People is grappling with a lot more.
Makachev.
And you busy grappling with MMA and all of these things, and other people is grappling with.
I almost this for the audience, inshallah, for our viewers.
We had to grapple him to come.
I wanted to go to a grappling workshop tonight, and that's why Mullah Ebrahim is throwing Allah now. No, I wanted to meet the brother because not only because for the grappling workshop, it's not technically they have an open mat on Sundays, right, where they actually do demonstrations and stuff like that. But tonight is more like a presentation, teaching people what the art is. And he compiled the book. He's not an alim, right? He probably doesn't know. I don't think he knows Arabic as well. So because it says he wrote the book, but hadith translated by someone else.
Okay.
So
he brought his expertise.
So he speaks about knowledge of wrestling and grappling in the Arabian Peninsula, right?
Okay, brother Rafiq asked, what's the book's name?
Prophetic grappling.
Not that one.
Okay.
The Heart Therapy by Dr. Ali Barghouthi.
And I think the Sheikh has an explanation thereof on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
I saw online.
Okay, Brother Sadiq says, when you're referring to the books, can you also say where we can obtain said book for learning purposes, min fadlik? And that people need to pay us some
yes.
royalties.
Patreon or something.
Yeah.
But you can Google
download
it. Because I love Brother Riaz, the book is available.
I think it's better to have the book in. You can download the PDF on kalamullah.com.
Yeah.
So if you just type in Art Therapy Ali Barghouthi PDF, the book will pop up.
Free.
But as Sheikh Yusuf mentions,
Riaz Savant.
best go to Savant, buy yourself a hard copy because therein you can make your notes.
But
it's
that
costly.
book is not cheap.
What's the price?
I think it's almost pushing to 500 rand. 400.
But it's an investment, man, for your akhirah and for your spirituality.
It's published by Dakwa Corner. Dakwa. DAKWA. It's a Malaysian publishing company. And they produced the book, and mashallah.
And it's styled according to the Arba'in style. So it mentions 40 hadiths. and he mentions commentary, and it's like there's a lot of, I think there's a section for notes as well or something.
Like I mentioned, the
these
40,
projects also at the
the 40 method, the 40 hadith method is so amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, so how to get out of that slump? That's what we want to know. And so the Sheikh really mentions like 1, 2, 3, 4. He mentions 4 key ways how to obtain it, how to get out of that spiritual slump, that, lack, low iman, slump in iman. And the first point that he mentions is that for you to get out of that position that you're in, that spiritual slump, that state of, weakness, lapse, gradualism is important. And he explains by saying, to inculcate good habits and remove bad habits, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. Spirituality is not just like when you go through to a lecture, right? And you sit in a dars, Maulana Ebrahim is teaching or you are teaching,
You feel motivated.
You feel motivated. Yeah. It's like, oh, Allahu Akbar, I feel like, but then when you get home,
the Sahaba went through that. The Sahaba says, I'm sitting with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I can picture Jahannam like it's there.
Yes.
I can picture Jannah and it's there for the picking. But when I go,
I play with my kids.
I play with my kids.
Exactly.
I joke around.
I forget about it. And he thought that he has hypocrisy.
Yeah. That's the strictness of the Sahaba and how they look down at themselves and like, we do one salah hills.
Sheikh, and that's what what it's all about, man. You must know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Umar ibn Khattab and others would say, if everybody went to Jannah,
and there's one person
going to enter Jannah,
I'll be that person. Yeah.
I'm going to look to my left and to my right. That if everyone is going to go to Jannah except one, I'm like,
I mean, it's really
it's optimistic.
When it comes to acts of worship, we always we look at people below us, man. Right? Now that guy doesn't even go to the masjid at all.
Ik maak at least salah by huis, yeah. We don't look at those who have,
But even if you look at sports,
I don't know what's just coughing tonight.
If you look at sports, if players, say soccer players for instance, if they go through slumps, the advice is always keep on doing what you're doing.
Consistency, yeah.
Just keep on doing what you've been doing all along, and you will get out of it, man. So that's the same with anything. It's been working for you. It's not that the method don't work. It's just the fact that you're being tested.
Yeah, and you need to continue. You need to pull through, yeah.
Yeah, you're being tested, and because you're doing the right thing, that's why you're being tested.
And exactly. You don't give, I mean, a pro athlete that doesn't give up, just because they had a bad season. He just leaves the sport.
Yeah.
He trains,
pushes through,
goes back to the drawing board. And that's the problem with acts of worship, man. It doesn't work for me. I'm not good at it. And then I just leave it.
Yeah.
Like reading the Quran. I mean, you get 2 rewards when you're struggling.
Yes.
Right? Like yesterday at Voice of the Cape, there was this one question. It popped up. My son, and the pressure on children today. My son is on page 4 or 14 of the surah. Right? He's on 4 or 14 of the surah.
Want some magic advice from the Sheikh.
And he's excited to go to madrasa even though he doesn't know his lesson. The kid doesn't click with it. He's struggling, but he's still excited to go to the madrasa. Now you pressure the kid.
Exactly.
And you take away that gradualism. Allah, I was speaking to one of the, maybe you won't appreciate, I mentioned his name, but I'm just going to use him anonymously. So he's not living in South Africa anymore, but he's one of the top Qurra of Cape Town. He's relocated in another country. And he said, when he started his hifz journey, he used to memorize like 3-4 lines. It wasn't a 1-pager or 2 sides he was consistently giving in
4 lines.
3-4 lines. And he studied under Shaykh Ebrahim. He was a student of Imam Abdul Rahman Salih. Imam Abdul Rahman Salih studied. Very merciful Ustad. Did you ever raise a voice? Did you ever hear Imam raise his voice?
Never. I think they had the system, and all of Sheikh Salih Abadi, rahimahallah's students had the system that your manners must first be in accordance with Quran before you can memorize Quran.
I was listening to the series of the Hufad, the senior Hufad.
Yeah, by Shaykh Ismail.
And then one of them said that Sheikh said that you can't wear shorts and you
can't play soccer
you can't drive to the class. And that Sheikh is tarbiyah, man, because earlier on, we spoke about downloading a course and doing it. I mean, the Islamic sciences can be taught be studied like that.
Yeah, but
if you have no connection with somebody who's a murabbi,
Definitely.
Somebody who's
A spiritual
guiding you,
guide,
a spiritual guide. No matter, I mean, we might look at spiritual guides as the way of one.
No, a teacher.
maslak.
Basically a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
A teacher.
A teacher. You need a teacher.
You do,
And
you do.
speaking about that, right? I had an old uncle in my class, Haji Amin Abrams.
Yeah.
He was
Haji
70
Amin,
odd. He was of the old. He wasn't a Hafid, complete Hafid, but he was a very good reciter of that 15 juz, that ajza that he knew. He was like super strong. He studied under Sheikh Salih Habadi and all of these. He was in my class. He was 70 years old, right? And then he told us, Sheikh Salih Habadi kasi, "Chekani sokas piali, chekani jeans drani." Like that tarbiyah was because this is not the adab of Hamalatul Quran.
You can't go to the bioscope, things like that.
It does not behove a student of the Quran to act in this way.
Yeah, and like I said, man, I had the Shaykh Osama Sulaiman who said, "Don't eat that pumpkin seeds."
Yes.
It wasn't haram. But he didn't like it.
It's not
like
against
the
the
smell.
muru'ah of the talib
You
al-ilm.
need to stand out in some way, man.
Yeah.
If you are going to be amongst the best, if you're going to be from the family of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you need to show up in that way. So if that means that when in essence, when you're a student of Quran or any student of Deen, when everyone is sleeping, you must still be awake, man. You can't be sleeping with them and be sleeping before them and waking up after
And
them.
want to achieve greatness, yeah.
And that's not the system.
No, amazingly, I mean, that's what we lack in education today, because we brag about numbers, man. Right? There's 1,000 people attending my class, or we have so many people registered. And then you listen to the scholars, like my Mashaykh, like Shaykh Ishaq al-Khawaini, says he was happy when it was a little few people, and you actually knew what is being imparted.
Yeah.
Now you're teaching 100 people, 50 people. I mean, when teaching online, you don't even know who you are teaching.
Everyone is
right,
mukhti.
and you don't know who you're teaching and how it's affecting that person and how it's affecting you. Because for a long time, I didn't do anything locally. I was just doing my online thing, but I felt disconnected. I felt disconnected, and so having that relationship with the teacher is good for the teacher and for the student. Yeah. You know, so often Shaykh Anna might be crapping the kissing of the hands, man, of the Mashaykh, right? Our Mashaykh would teach us that he pulls his hand away because it's good
he
for
fears it's going to do something
to him.
Yeah.
Right? The same with Shaykh Al-Albani, he used to be very strong. Apparently.
Shaykh Ishaq mentions
Shaykh
that he
Ishaq,
pushed me
pushed
over.
you away.
I can imagine.
Not because, I'm not saying, not because I said it's something wrong, but they feared what it could be doing
to them.
Because afterwards you walk around like this, expecting people to kiss your hands.
That's the difference between our predecessors and this specific generation, because we do things for validation and we do things for acknowledgement and we do things for fame and
sincerity.
So when the student
lacking,
kisses the Sheikh's hand, he does it because
he loves the Sheikh.
He knows who he is and who the Sheikh is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And when the Sheikh pulls his hand away, the Sheikh also knows who he is and what he thinks.
And in that is a dars for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, can I bring up the comment, inshallah?
Can't you? Doesn't it pop up?
You must have a plan when going through a slump. You must set your baseline. You don't go lower than your baseline. Now, that's very important. And the baseline is the sunnah.
The sunnah, yeah.
And the sunnah is never extreme, right? It's moderation.
Don't
go past it.
And in these points, if you look at these points that we're going to mention, which we're supposed to cover tonight, inshallah, it's all about moderation. You know, so gradualism to inculcate good habits and remove bad habits, it takes time. And that's why when we are slipping, we shouldn't beat up ourselves. We should keep in mind that the prize is Jannah, you know, getting Allah Ta'ala's rida and pleasure. And the Prophet in a beautiful hadith, right? He mentioned to us this. He said, Saddidu wa qaribu. You know, try to hit the target, but if you can't hit the target,
at least come close.
Qaribu. Come close to it.
And we have the all or nothing
approach.
If we can't memorize the whole Quran, we won't.
I'm giving up. Like even with learning as well, people.
Arabic, Sheikh. Learning Arabic, man.
Yeah.
People, like I always tell the students at Al Furqan and other institutions, book 1, it's always out of stock. Book 2 and 3 is, you know, gathering dust on the shops because nobody reaches
has reached the
because it's too tough.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to gradually move towards
immediate gratification, immediate results.
Like I know a few brothers that are always contacting me, right? So I have a lot of brothers that always contact me when they come across some issue in Arabic. They're reading some text. They can't try to make hal of it, man. They can't try to figure it out. So they're like, I don't know what. I admire those brothers. The brothers who watch the podcast as well. I'm like, this guy's been struggling for years, man. He's been learning Arabic. He's been learning with an Egyptian teacher and a Yemeni teacher.
Oh, okay.
He has local teachers. Yes. He asks me about this course. He studies through IU. I mean, like one day Allah Ta'ala is going to make fath and Allah is going to open up for you that, because of that sincere
you're
effort.
You're giving everything, Allah will give you something. You're giving nothing.
You're not going to get anything.
And I don't know, how kosher it is, but, speak about now Noman Ali Khan, man. I was listening to a podcast now the other day.
We allow you that one.
Yeah, inshallah. I don't think the audience catches it. No. So I was listening to this little. It was a podcast by Mad Mamluks, one of the old podcasts. Yes. It was about the guy that was instrumental that started the Al Maghrib thing. It was Shaykh Muhammad Sharif, man. Okay. So he spoke about meeting Noman Ali Khan, man. And Noman Ali Khan was putting in front of him, look here, I can teach. You have these weekend courses, I can teach Arabic like that. And so he brushed him off and said, like, this guy, nothing's going to happen, man. This guy's a Desi. He's Indian. Wants to teach Arabic. He's not like a Sheikh Madina
and then
graduate.
Weekends also.
Weekends, no, doesn't even going to happen. And he says, like,
open Baina.
And now he's got this big place and he's so famous across the world. And he says he kicks himself, man. He says that, like, but even Noman Ali Khan, man, he explains how he started with Arabic, man. He had a teacher from Pakistan that came to New York, I think. And he had this, where he did the word for word of the Quran in one Ramadan for 4 hours a day or something like that. And he attended every day and he would struggle learning. He's mostly self-taught, right? But his knowledge of Nahu and Sarf and Balagha, and I've heard him giving a khutbah just in Arabic. Like on the minbar, just Arabic, giving the khutbah, like a speech.
He didn't miss up.
Yeah, and it was like, subhanallah, this is effort, man. Gradualism important, man. And he's been doing this for years. It can take you many places, man. And that's important in our spiritual journeys as well, man. It needs to be that gradual journey to Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Prophet says in this hadith, Sadidu wa qaribu. And then the Prophet says in another hadith, he says, Wal qast al qast tablughu. You will eventually reach the goal, and that is Allah. And then the Prophet said, Inna deena yusrun. And this is super important. Deen is what?
Ease.
It is ease. وَلَا يُشَادَ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ.
Deen is stronger than you, man. You can't race. You can't grapple.
Exactly.
You can't bring. You can't pin Deen down.
You're not gonna win. Like one brother came to me one night in the masjid. I had a small nasiha that I would do every night in the masjid after Maghrib, Bulughul Maram, years back, probably 10 years back, right? So this brother told me, you know what? Come we remain after Salatul Isha and say 1,000 La ilaha illallah. And I was young at that time. It was 10 years ago. I was like a youngster. I don't think I was married.
It was like 12, 10 years ago.
I think 10. So this brother was saying, like, and I was still studying that time, and I'm like, 1,000 La ilaha illallah. That's heavy, man. 1,000 La ilaha illallah. I won't be able to do that again. So I told the brother respectfully, I don't think I'll be able to do again. If I do it tonight, inshallah, I think that's the last time I'll say La ilaha illallah. There's no sense of, no, I mean, like,
you'd be dead.
Like that.
You'll be like dead.
There's no gradualism to something. Yes. You don't do things gradually. It's going to burn you out, man. You're going to experience spiritual burnout, man. And we see that all the time. All the time, People who used to belong to certain movements. And that's across the spectrum.
And they're no longer Muslim.
They're no longer practicing. You know what, now? Speaking about that, no longer Muslim. There's this famous speaker in the West, Naeem Abdul Wali. He was a big, I'm going to be frank, he was a big Sufi leader. He studied in Medina, dropped out of Medina, went to Turkey, studied in Turkey for 8 years. Last night, one of his students said, like, he left the fold of Islam. He's living as an atheist. This is a guy who's been Muslim for 30 years. Right? 30 years he was a Muslim, right? He left the fold of Islam, and then someone added in the comments, and he's living in a homosexual relationship.
Sure, after 30 years.
After 30 years.
So he didn't have
and
a baseline.
His videos are there. You can just Google him, man.
Naeem Abdul Wali.
And Naeem Abdul Wali, Gary Edwards, River to Islam, White River to Islam. Right? And then people were speaking about the experiences with him, man. And they were saying, this is about someone who, Allah A'lam, I don't know the individual from a bath soap, right? But they were speaking about that this is about a person who lacks adab and, never humility. You start questioning things, and he spoke about things of Islam in a very derogatory manner, man. And eventually slipped. And he had lots of shubuhat, but they said he never
fixed it.
He never had the humility to ask his seniors. I'm going to ask my seniors, I have these shubuhat. He just kept it, and he would speak about what's this,
And he would try to get to a conclusion himself.
Yeah, and not only that, but he would speak down at it, man. views, this opinion, what's this stuff, this. And wallah, I thought to myself, let me just do, because they share these lectures in the comments. Now I clicked, and the way that he spoke was in a very derogatory manner, and he represented himself as a spiritual guide. And subhanallah, after 30 years,
and the mutakabbir won't
and
even
this
learn.
is exactly 4 years ago he left the fold of Islam, and someone mentioned in the comments he's living in a homosexual relationship. Subhanallah.
After being a student of knowledge
and being a Muslim for 30 years.
So if you do then succumb to the cloud, the dark cloud, then it is just free fall from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
there's no coming back.
It becomes Shaitan's playground then.
Exactly.
You have shubuhat that
you have slumps, you have weaknesses, and now everything is going to come on top of that, So gradualism is very important. And something that we need to keep in mind is if we can't do something completely, at least come close to it. Choose the opportune times. And he mentions, because the hadith that the Prophet mentioned, Sadidu wa Qaribu, the hadith, the Prophet made an analogy of traveling, man. And then the Shaykh mentions, he says, an unbalanced and unplanned travel drains all your energy.
Yes.
If you're traveling to Allah and it's not planned and worked out, you will eventually be drained.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Sheikh, before the cars that we drive today now tells you your trip is gonna, your petrol will take you that far.
You can talk about 11.
No, I mean, generally, man, your car doesn't need to be that new for that to say there's so much petrol left.
You must not do it manually.
You just have to judge before you just had to judge when you only had empty and full.
Yes.
You didn't know how many kilometers it will take you. You needed to plan. I'm going to go from here and I'm going to reach maybe where George, and then I'll have to fill up because I want to make it to PE, without refilling. And the same with our spirituality.
And even in that with filling the car, you always ask somebody that traveled to George already.
Yeah.
So seek consultation. Ask those that know, man, that has the experience, that went through certain things. The other takeaway point from that comment is we never know I don't know what Ashik is going through. I don't know what you're going through.
Moments, weaknesses.
So I'm always treat him with with the necessary.
Yeah, like imagine like
don't add to his sorrow.
Don't add to his woe.
I'm thinking about this guy left the fold of Islam after 30 years, right? He had those dark moments dark clouds for a very long time.
And so the cloud didn't move.
And he left it unchecked. And number two, he was supposed to be a spiritual leader. He was supposed to be responsible for the guidance of others, to teach them their deen and to guide them. And subhanAllah, he slipped. And that's a bad slip. I mean, for me, sin, and this is our aqidah, a sinful Muslim
is
infinity times better than
somebody who's not a Muslim.
Someone who's not a Muslim or leaves the fold of Islam like that. SubhanAllah, Allah save us.
So that also teaches us that nobody can put their spirituality on autopilot. Man.
Exactly.
Because he had followers, he had students, he had people that looked up to him for guidance. Or at least, not guidance.
Spiritual advice.
Yeah.
And also that having students and having people that is following you does nothing for you and your spirituality. It does
putting yourself
for you.
out. I think that's also
you need to constantly work on yourself.
Yes.
Putting yourself out, Sheikh. Putting yourself out as being that spiritual guide.
Yeah.
Never saying that, okay, I can't answer this. It's not for me. It's not up to me. Guiding people to someone else or somewhere else where the shubuhat can be can be seen to. I think it's very important. Like the medical doctor.
Yeah.
And like, you get even mechanical, you get a diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
A specialist.
Yeah. And you get now your backyard mechanic is going to work on everything. But that diesel mechanic who's a specialist, he won't just
knows it. And so I think, it's important that, Muslims, and I think we have not dumbed down, we have made our deen, everything is legalistic, man. Legal.
Yeah.
Black and white.
But no one worries about how does it affect my heart, man. That's never the discussion.
Yeah.
Everything is legal.
What are you going to hear now? Ashma Pumpi, brikat may puasa.
No one's going to take what is aqrab. Closer to the haqq, closer to guidance and stuff like that. Yeah.
I can also this fatwa and this taqwa.
Exactly.
Saturday there was some sisters, actually some of my wife's students came to visit me. So the whole issue of the fidya, does it take the place of fasting days in? And the one student said, no, I'm on that opinion. So I asked, now what makes you
on that opinion?
So she couldn't answer because it's just easier, man.
It's easy. It's not because this is more leading to Allah's obedience.
But what is your opinion, Sheikh? That was asked in the last symposium, And
What is
this
that?
question comes up all the time.
Okay, 5
A
answers.
sister that's pregnant this year, next year she's feeding, breastfeeding. Is fidya sufficient, or must she fast?
I'll just go with the safer view. Inshallah, they need to fast and
pay the fidya.
yeah, inshallah.
Wallahu alam.
But
And
there is an opinion.
There is multiple opinions. There's a
That the
spectrum of
fidya is-
But I
opinions.
mean, somebody asked like it's like 30 days, and then the next year it's 2 years, it's 60 days. But you can,
Yeah.
you can fast.
I think each person that should be taken on, every case on merit, man.
And
If
some
it's-
sisters think they can't fast, man. They're
Yeah.
not allowed to fast when they. That's also
exactly.
another,
Yeah, that's also
another
another thing. Yeah,
misunderstanding.
misunderstanding. So
Okay, bring up,
okay.
Could it also be that he had students and his ego took over?
Definitely, all of those factors are there. Ego, because apparently, according to this guy, he says like he was not supposed to be. This is within a specific movement that he operates in.
Okay, so put him out himself.
He was not supposed to do that. Yeah,
Oh.
his teachers were not happy that he puts himself out like that.
Okay.
It could be that.
But
Ego
that-
does play a factor.
But
in
that's a big thing today. The student enters the Jamia, he enters, and then he starts making videos. And he discusses
yeah,
huge masail.
Yeah,
that's
the
true.
making of videos is not the issue. Is what content?
Yeah,
No, the content is
discusses
okay.
Keep yourself
masail
in
and
the
all
lane.
of those.
Even though the
yourself in-
content is
yourself in the lane,
authentic.
yeah.
But I mean, like, there's so much a concentration on making videos and nashrul ilm and nashrul khair.
We're not
That you-
taking
that
it.
You are
forgetting
neglecting
about you,
yourself.
yeah.
You're not standing up for tahajjud and fajr,
Yeah.
but you're making videos.
Yeah.
Because the focus is now, I need to get my name out there. I need to be a content pusher. And so that your spirituality takes a dip. Your knowledge goes like this.
Yeah.
Spirituality goes a dip, and that is dangerous. Whoever increases in knowledge, but he doesn't increase in zuhd. Lam yazdad min Allah illa bu'dan. He only distances himself from Allah Azza wa
So
Jalla.
there's like
And
lots
even-
of facts there. There's black and white, but it doesn't bring him closer to Allah Subhanahu wa
Yeah.
Taala.
Like the author says that in the first hadith of the book, that the heart is central, it is like the king, and the limbs enact that which the heart puts out. So if whatever's in the heart, if fame and all of that is in the heart, then
It
the
comes
limbs
out,
is gonna act or enact that which you want to achieve, man.
And
where
you
does
see that,
leave you?
and you see that amongst du'at, man. I mean, we don't have the biggest following, and we don't have the most views, and sometimes you feel that you need to do something strange or something outlandish
So that people
Yeah.
can,
that people can watch you and stuff. And if you want that, then you'll do that. And
Yeah.
therefore, you see sometimes you think, but that speaker is doing something like totally out of character. You wouldn't have done that
yeah.
before social media, and now
Yeah.
he's
There's a
tested.
huge impact now. This YouTube culture, pushing content culture has a huge impact on the spirituality. That
Allah
spirituality.
guide us, Allah
Ameen,
guide us.
ameen.
Check
And-
my-
And so, inshallah, you wanna?
No, go for it.
So the Prophet ﷺ says in another hadith, فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. Enter into this path, spiritual path, suluk ila Allah Azza wa Jal, traveling to Allah Azza wa Jal with kindness upon yourself. Take it easy upon yourself.
Leniency,
Don't rush in, Don't rush in. And I think that's because he says, if we excessively push ourselves, we will get bored, tired, and our souls will eventually rebel.
You know, I think back to advice that Shaykh Ishaq gave. Either I was in the gathering or I read on a cassette or CD or something, where he said you have to give yourself some time of rest, man. Some type of break. And then he speaks about the break that the Talibul Ilm should give himself. And he says, spend it with poetry. Now, I mean, when we, it's something, I mean, we would more work. Like,
No, but in his context,
in his context, it's
He's a
like
scholar.
we'd go to Netflix or we'd put
Exactly.
the TV on. Shaykh Ishaq, when I advise you, and he never speaks about himself, obviously, but when you do, take a break, please. You can't study all day.
Yeah.
And when you do study, or we do take a break, spend it in some mubah activity.
Exactly.
That's also beneficial.
Yeah, like grappling or something like that.
Because
like,
Shaykh, sometimes you feel
You
like
do become bored.
you feel like a fake or something.
That malal and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because you could either feel, now I'm going to leave this, man. I can't be a khatib anymore. I can't be an imam anymore. I fell so hard. The slump was so long. How can I face people? How can I teach?
Whenever I go through a slump, I don't give khutbah because I tell my wife to fix my speaking. Because I can, as I'm speaking,
You can't, I mean,
I'm speaking, I realize, but there's no oomph, man. There's no oomph here. You're trying to force something that's not there, man.
Yeah.
That's why I used to learn from a brother, before, I started studying and stuff like that. They said, if you are calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have not made tahajjud, then there will be a lack in your calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that for me is
the
best advice.
amazing thing, and we spoke about you speak about content makers and content pushers, no? But when you see the mashayikh, because obviously the guys that's doing content are younger mashayikh, younger du'at, right? Younger students. Their mashayikh, those people impacted them. We see this, it's no longer speaker's corner that's like attractive. It's like teachers of Quran. People like Yahya always spoke about Shaykh Abdul Rashid Ali Sufi.
No.
But there's a constant thing with Shaykh Abdul Rashid Ali Sufi, with us Shaykh Ahmad Ma'asarawi. It's the connection with Qiyamul Layl. And only the select few that's in the close circles pick that up, man. And then you can see why they are so successful, man.
No.
It's not about what you do, on these platforms. Yeah. But it's like the Prophet said, وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ تَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ بِالسَّلَامِ. He gives he enters Medina. Right? The people are waiting for him, and he gives his inaugural speech. And of that advice that the Prophet gives the people of Medina, a fresh new community.
Night praise.
Pray during the night where everybody else is sleeping. Doing that, and then you have that nasheed, man. It's a nasheed, it's not a Quran or hadith, but هَلَّ كَسِرٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. You have a secret with Allah.
No.
I mean, we have no secrets. Is it the sadaqah that you gave that nobody knew? We don't have that type of acts of worship. And Ramadan is not the time really. Yes, there is time for it, but most of our acts of worship are done in congregation.
No.
So yes, Ramadan is there to enhance, but it's not there to start.
Yeah.
If you
and
want,
that's why Ibn Rajab says something amazing. He says, "Tuba liman aslah nafsahu qabla Ramadan." Blessed is he who fixes himself and rectifies himself before the month of Ramadan.
And again, Sheikh, that coming into it gradually. If you're gonna wait for that man kakers to say it's the first of Ramadan.
Ramadan is Khair, inshallah. So I think we're gonna complete tonight, inshallah.
Yeah, go for it.
So the Sunnah teaches us to take on things incrementally, step by step.
That's a groot word.
Yeah. You speak a little what?
No,
school teacher was first. So the Prophet ﷺ was, he taught us to be constant and consistent in practice and worship of Allah. Our plan in life should be to gently add more of what Allah loves in our lives. And this moderate path will eventually lead us to make more permanent gains. Reading Quran, dhikrullah.
So when we do what Allah loves, there's a return.
No.
So there's more guidance. If we you speak about shubuhat, you speak about struggles and grappling, internal grappling, and if it's not fixed, then it just festers and it goes worse. But when you do, even in that time when you're grappling and you're pushing and pushing, doing things which Allah loves, then those shubuhat
eventually
will move. The clouds will move.
Because it is guidance. You're imbibing in your life guidance, and guidance will automatically
and guidance comes through doing acts of worship.
Not all the clouds or the reason for the clouds is not really because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ. So not all the clouds is negative clouds, man. Even though it seems negative, if that cloud brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the trajectories towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of because
I understand.
Then it's a positive. Then no matter how dark the cloud,
but it pushed you towards
Auntie Adila Albertine told me she missed the live show. So I said, Auntie, but it's must there to watch anytime. She said, no, but I can't comment. So she commented now.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Said,
What's the comment?
Not enough efforts put into being a Muslim breeds boredom of the body, intellectual numbness, restlessness of the heart.
Subhanallah.
And the worst of all, ingratitude to man and the Creator.
No.
MashaAllah. Definitely. Very important words from our seniors.
Khair,
I'm going to have to decipher that first.
So we spoke about gradual journey to Allah. The author then goes on and he says balance is also important.
Balance.
Yeah. Balance is
important. I think that's what Shaykh Ishaq said. Little poetry, little danasa.
It needs to be a balance.
All work and no play.
Makes Johnny a dull boy.
Sometimes you get the person is academic, man. And all he can do is speak academia. He can't relate to anybody. And that is, especially in our
That's why for a talib al-ilm, he must be a khatib as well. That needs to be there. He needs to have
interaction.
that. He needs to have that wa'idhi type
But
of
sometimes
personality.
people expect that if every talib al-ilm will be a khatib.
No.
Yeah.
And every khatib,
He's a talib al-ilm.
yeah, every good khatib is like the
Shaykh al-Islam.
student in his,
Yeah.
and that's not the.
That's
It's
not the
not the
reality.
case.
Yeah.
That's far from the reality.
So you also have to know yourself there in that terms. When you'll be.
This isn't my scene.
And like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq used to say, Allahumma ja'alni khayran mimma yadhunnun.
No.
Allah, make me better than
what they
think of me. ولا تؤاخذني بما يقولون.
No.
And don't keep me responsible for what they say. واغفر لي ما لا يعلمون. And forgive me for what they don't know.
No.
And one of the Salaf used to say, if sin had an odor, nobody would come close to it. And that's something I constantly Shaykh Muhammad Hassan saying, if sin had an odor, it wouldn't come near to me.
Allah has just covered us.
You know who you are, man.
Yeah,
and it's just Allah's sitr. It's just Allah's cover that's covering you.
That's why the ulama, the great scholars, contemporaries, when they would in the books, they would say al-faqir ila rabbihi. Al-abdul faqir ila afwi rabbihi. The one who is in need of this is a great alama, pious person, but he says, I'm a slave who needs the mercy and the forgiveness of Allah.
And speak about covers of books, Sheikh. Some ulama actually got angry when publishers would say Shaykh al-Allama.
They don't want that.
They don't want that. They don't want
this person?
Who's this person?
Yeah.
So knowing yourself is so important, and it's only Allah's covering that.
And even that, knowing yourself, that is also a journey on itself, man.
But
because you discover things about yourself.
The amazing thing of Allah's cover is that I'm a firm believer that if that cover is removed, right, and the person says, no, it's the only time and the first time, I don't believe that. Because we know how many times Allah covers us.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's the first and the second.
That's just now you've been exposed now.
It's been exposed. You can't say, no, it's my eerste keer. No. Allah covered you for.
Allah continues to cover us.
But sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you so much that you do it once and then you khafang. Just to show you.
Yeah. Also to bring you back. It's a cloud. You. Fat note.
Yeah.
Sheikh, continue.
So balance is important. And he says our religious enthusiasm, now that hamas that we have when you start practicing the deen, he says this shouldn't destroy other aspects of our lives, man. So you get the person, he starts practicing the deen. Okay, well, die TV example verbruik jy. Ons moenie TV sit nie. But like he neglects the family example. Hy het nie meer tyd vir die familie nie because ek moet net masjid, ek moet met my brothers is, ek moet talabul ilm doen. There's no balance in our lives, man. And that lack of balance leads to boredom and it leads to burnout. Like we mentioned earlier, I know many brothers that used to practice that would be very strict in the practice of the deen and the understanding of the deen. Today when I see them, they're not practicing at all.
There's no athar. There's no...
Nothing. Because there was no balance.
It leads to loss also, man.
Yeah.
You lose everyone around you. And I always say, why are you so rigid? Why are you so...
Morbid.
Yeah, when you call to the sunnah, man, because if you read the sunnah, and you read of how Rasulullah interacted with the companions.
It's like the people become angry. When they become religious, they become angry.
Yeah.
Angry with the world.
And stuff.
We misunderstand sometimes, Sheikh, al-hubbu lillah wal-bughdu lillah.
Yeah.
So we become so angry with that individual, and 90% of the time, people don't even know they're doing wrong, man.
Yeah.
And I think and obviously you guys know better, but if a student is away from home for a long time and it comes things that's normal for him from where he's coming from. It's not the norm where he's going
to.
And even us as students, man, sometimes we see the WhatsApp status of a person that's in your class for 2 years, 3 years, and you would think, doesn't this person know any better? You just took it
you took it for granted.
You took it for granted
exactly,
that person must know, and you say, no, this is al-bughdu. I'm hating it for Allah's sake. But that person, it wasn't clarified for that individual.
Yeah, like I see many brothers. I saw a brother this afternoon. I was in the mall. And this brother belongs to a certain movement, right? MashaAllah, the brother, beard, big, MashaAllah, thawb. But this brother looks very angry. I mean, we spoke about we did the Shama'il last night. And we spoke about Bab ma ja'a fi sifati or fi dhahiki Rasulullah. That Jabir al says, La ra'ani, the Prophet never met me and saw me illa kana tabassuman. Or, except that illa tabassuman, except that he would smile. And that is part of and then the Shaykh Salih al-Munajjid, because I was reading through his commentary, and he was saying this is min sha'nil kummal. This is from the way of the people have reached perfection, that they are always able to meet those who they love and show affection to with a beautiful smiling face. No, the sunnah shouldn't make you harsh. It should make you beautiful with people. And so he says, if there's no balance in your life and you start neglecting other aspects of your life, what does that lead to? You will neglect the commandments of Allah. You won't give the haqq of your kids. You won't give the haqq of your spouse. That's a command of Allah. Yeah. That's also a command of Allah. But it's because we have created dichotomy. My Islam is literally masjid.
Your ahl as a,
exactly, the hadith of Salman.
Yeah.
And so that is the hadith over here. The Prophet said, everything has a right over you. Your burden, your body, your wife, everything has a right over you. And so that's important, inshallah, in our spiritual journey as well. In getting out of this dark cloud, it is, balance in our lives. When we tread and tread this path of piety, we need to keep in mind there are people who have rights over us, our bodies have rights over us, etc., inshallah. Khair, inshallah. What's the time that we have left?
We are it's 1 hour, Sheikh.
I think we should finish these 2 points and we're done.
Go for it.
What do you think, Mullah Ebrahim?
Go for it. You understand?
Okay, inshallah. And so the third point that he mentions is assistance. So
you can't do this alone.
Yeah, you can't do this alone. Exactly. This path, you can't tread this path
Ramadan,
alone.
I think, I think I asked you in the first segment of Heart to Heart, what does Ramadan mean to you? For me, Ramadan is a very social, it shouldn't outweigh the acts of worship, but it's a very social month for me.
Yes,
because we have various programs, we get picked up by friends, like we've been doing the midnight Qiyamul Layl at Town Center Masjid for the past, as long as the Masjid is open.
11 years.
12, going on for 11, 12 years. And that means, waking up at 11. Now this year, as summer, gets closer to Ramadan, that gap gets all smaller. But it means waking up at 11 o'clock, doing the calls, guys, are you awake? Meeting at the spot, going through to Mitchell's Plain, doing our thing,
MashaAllah.
having a cup of coffee afterwards and coming home.
Yeah.
And when other people, they do the whole Taraweeh thing, going from one masjid to the
next masjid,
to the other, picking each other up. And it's encouraging. And, as growing up, the days before radio and the days before cell phone, we lived in a flat, right? In Manenberg, in a flat. And there was like a Morse code. My mother and the neighbor, they would knock on the wall. And that would be indication, it's suhoor time. And this would go on throughout the year, even for Fajr. So there were each other's alarm clocks, man.
Also,
so we need that.
Ramadan is just a part of the year or a month in which people is just, I don't know if I don't want to say that they're more Muslim, but
softened up.
Yes, man. It's something else, especially in Cape Town. I spent Ramadan, 2 weeks of Ramadan in Palestine. There's no difference to any other day. I was there outside of Ramadan, I was there inside of Ramadan. There's no difference. But in Cape Town, you can see it's Ramadan, man. You feel it. People are just more.
People
I can't get to the words, man.
Sopang.
Yeah, more sopang, man.
I read an article this morning and I wasn't even aware of it, because everywhere else you travel in the country, you don't see that Muslim presence. But according to somebody from the city, a quarter of the inhabitants of Cape Town are from the Cape Malay community. So that's why probably you can see
and
it.
it's also because we move in these circles a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's why we see it.
Yeah,
if you're gonna maybe live in Constantia or
but even there, Sheikh, I mean, like myself, I spend a lot of my time in the northern suburbs, out in Tableview and some. And before, we had this, you must always have a plan. So when we do Ramadan shopping or Eid shopping, we'd go to the north, because traditionally those shops aren't
doesn't
busy.
work anymore.
It's not Canal Walk. It's
doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore.
Everywhere.
You know how many Arab brothers and families are living out that side, and the mall is as full.
Islam is growing in the north now, no?
Alhamdulillah.
Sheikh, continue.
Khair, inshallah. So he says, in our spiritual journey, besides seeking the aid and the help of others, we also need to seek the aid of Allah subhanahu in this journey.
We think we can do it on our own, man. We think we guided ourselves. We think that I'm doing it for Allah's sake. But there's that hidayah to tawfiq that nobody can give you.
Yeah.
That Abu Talib never got. He got the hidayah to irshad. He got the guidance from the Prophet, do this, that, and other. But it's like taking the horse to the water.
Yeah.
That we can do. Making a drink
that we can't.
That's
do.
from Allah. So that hidayah to tawfiq is where we we think it's effort, man. We think it's because I set my alarm.
Yeah.
And it's because I, you know.
Also, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then giving us that verses of call out to me? Ask me. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Why
Sheikh,
those
it's so
verses?
amazing that after performing salah, Allahumma inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika.
Aid me.
Yes.
Help me, O Allah.
In your remembrance.
Because, oh Allah,
being
on my
thankful to
own,
you
I
and
cannot do this.
perfecting acts of worship. So, I mean, ask Allah. And that is, like, I mean, every advice when they ask the Sheikh about memorizing the Quran, al-ikhlas. Studying hadith, al-ikhlas. Becoming regular in Qiyamul Layl, al-ikhlas. Having that sincerity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we do go through that dark cloud, only Allah can. There's no kashifa illa hu. There's nobody that can take it away except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we think it's our efforts, man. We think that khatam or some mashayikh reciting a khatam per day is through efforts, but it's tawfiq.
Tawfiq min Allah. I'ana. Allah's assistance.
Because you can make the same effort and then you don't
I mean, you can
get,
see
you don't
that in
reach it.
business, Sheikh. I mean, you can see that in business. And I see it a lot. The father had a good family business. The sons all worked in the business. The father dies. First, they try to work together, and each one goes on their own way. They have the same capital and the same push and the same start in life, but one makes a success and the other one doesn't. Because again, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And khair, inshallah, we end on this. And then the Sheikh says, understand yourself. Know your weaknesses. You need to be fair, honest with yourself. Sometimes we consider ourselves more pious than what we actually are. But you must be prepared to tell yourself, Ashik, this is Iblis.
Yeah.
I'm just making this example now.
No, we agree with you. We agree with you 100%.
Like, you have bad qualities, man. You need to own up to your bad. You get people who live in, like, wallah, I've met people now. They don't realize it.
What's the famous statement that boggles my mind when a person says, "Ikin my deen."
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you feel that you know more than him, but what he's speaking about, man, the things that he's saying,
where's your humility?
The argument that you're having, and then he says maybe like the mas'hal al-khuffayn, right? And the person sees you wiping over your footgear or your jawrab, and the person says, "What is this? Ikin was my deen." But then if you you understand, you need to be man enough to say, "But okay, now explain to me."
Yeah.
Because what we usually do is we like the enemies of what we don't know.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Sheikh Hassan David in the Qari. Allah yahfadhu. And he was speaking about, he was sitting in a gathering where one of the senior huffaz, and this is like a few decades ago, somebody was reading another riwayah, and this Hafiz said, "What is the?" It wasn't Hafs.
Popular.
It wasn't Hafs. I think it was Warsh and what is the? And this comes from a scholar, right? People looked up to him, and we still look up to him. But I mean, he wasn't schooled in that aspect.
But to say something like that,
he
wasn't aware that even existing.
You understand?
At all.
So
it's not like, because many of us heard about the Quran, even though we don't have expertise in it, we know there exist different recitations, but that means he wasn't
exposed or aware at all.
But that is a new phenomenon here in Cape Town. It's only gained traction now over the last few years. The different riwayat. Because we thought qira'at was going high and low.
The maqamat.
Not even maqamat. Maqamat was something else. Lagu. Because the older sheikh, they say, "I kamus lika wukhat and lika lakat." So that was qira'at for us. That's what we knew of it.
And at the ahruf. But anyway.
Yeah, so I think important, you need to know yourself. You need to know what causes you to obey Allah more, and you need to know what causes you to sin.
Sheikh, what's also important is to know your strength in ibadah. Because the Sahaba knew that. Uthman knew that he could recite the whole Quran in one night, and that's what he did. He also knew he was generous, and that's what he did. Abu Hurairah knew he couldn't do that at night, so he dedicated himself to studying and teaching the people. So we need to kind of feel our way through, and obviously we're speaking about the nawafil. You can't feel yourself through the fara'id.
That everyone should do.
But knowing your strength in acts of worship, enhancing it, and I mean, like,
And in sin as well, knowing what causes you to sin. If you know, if I work at this specific place and this sister causes me to sin, then you need to stay away from that sister.
I was I was listening to Shaykh Tawfiq Chowdhury a few years back. He came just before Ramadan and he spoke about his Qiyamul Layl journey, man, and how he struggled with Qiyamul Layl and how he invested money, in buying a good rug, a good salah, tampait, what's it? Musalla, right? And then he realized that he couldn't stand as long as he wanted to. Then he bought him a nice office chair to sit because it is, allowed to it is permissible to sit and pray nafil. And I mean, that would also, that knowledge of that would also minimize arguments in a masjid during Taraweeh.
So when Moulana said, Inna Dina Yusra, it's only easy if you seek knowledge.
You will know
and you attain that knowledge,
is.
And then the ease is there, man. But you're gonna attach yourself to doing a certain thing a certain way because you learnt it a certain way, and you don't know there's
and you're not open
way.
To other ways.
Yeah, and then Deen is
Then
gonna
it's difficult.
Like the whole 28 thing. I don't wanna go there. I don't want to discuss fiqh, man. But I mean, so you have a masjid and there's 20 rak'ats, and if the guy wants to rest in between, and Sheikh, there's something I wanted to ask, and I didn't do a Google search on it. Whenever I see pictures of in Mauritania and gatherings of scholars, one of the scholars always laying down.
It's a culture among them.
They're always laying and talking.
They teach like that as well.
Really, on the side.
Teach, they lay down.
Because
it's a cultural
I
practice
saw
among them.
a lot of pictures of Mauritania recently.
Yeah, I know.
And the sheikh that they visited,
they speak, and the sheikh teaches mutun like that as well. He
laying down.
It's a common custom among the mashayikh to do that. Yeah.
Okay,
was it Sheikh Abdullah Lakay that said in Egypt also?
I don't know about Egypt.
He experienced that.
I don't know.
No, it's a Mauritanian thing. It's a clear
Mauritanian thing, yeah. And the mashayikh do that, yeah.
You know, when I was back in the day when I made Imam still, and then I said, if you can't cope with 20 rakahs, man, you know what? Sit at the back in the masjid, sit,
listen,
and just وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ
فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ.
You know what some brothers do, right? So they become tired, they sit at the back with the mushaf
and follow.
Why bother with that
that's
person?
amazing. That's beautiful.
Why tell that person go home? Even the children, man.
Yeah.
And I understand noisy kids, and I understand, but if the kid is just sitting taking a break, why do you want to beat the? I mean, I remember as a child, an uncle standing by the door, beating children back to the salah.
No, but it's a misunderstanding.
When his kids weren't even there at all, man.
Yeah, it's like a misunderstanding. It's not because there's no basis, there's no knowledge, man. And so
it's all or nothing.
Exactly.
Was
why not? The guys work long, hard day. You can only make 2, but that 2 is going to be quality. There's going to be spiritual connection with Allah. And that 20 that you're going to push in with fatigue and hunger and moeilijkheid.
Then it doesn't come tomorrow night.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why start all week like that? There's no like a boom first night, second night, third night.
Because people cannot maintain 20 units. That burnout, spiritual burnout. Because your body is not gradually used to that, man.
Yes.
Now 20 nights, ek het al gesien die eerste aan hang die mense teen die muur. Because hy sê gewoonte daai.
Maybe he's from Mauritania.
Astaghfirullah. A'udhu billah. Khair inshallah. So
Sheikh, where's the khutbah tomorrow, inshallah? We'll end off, inshallah.
I'm at the beautiful khutbah, inshallah.
Mashallah. Next week.
Masjidul Bahrain, the masjid of the 2 seas.
Mashallah. So it's Masjid al-Bahr is in Strandfontein.
And then Bahrain.
And Bahrain is in
there's a masjid, Maraj al-Bahrain.
Really? Also that side.
It's in, I get confused when it comes to Skaapkraal. What's this popular food place where people do catering and stuff like that?
Barons.
Not Barons, the other one?
No, you're giving our companies names. I'm looking for us, but we love you.
Is it Stardome?
Stardom, yeah. Stardom is also that. There's quite a few venues now.
There was a recent break-in at that masjid.
Oh, okay.
Masjid Maraj al-Bahrain.
MashaAllah. Okay, I know what.
As a klomp baggers in die Kaap.
So you at Hout Bay.
No, I'm driving there.
I'm at home. I'm playing home tomorrow.
Okay.
And next week you at
Next week I'm at Town Center, inshallah.
Yeah, and I'll be in Mount View, Rondau.
Mount View seker kwaad vir my.
I've been summoned.
Dat my 10 jaar gelede
I've been summoned by the head sheikh. No. The head sheikh. But anyway, Barakallah Feek has been amazing chatting to you guys. Always amazing. Ibadat is up, Utait is up. Alhamdulillah. Ramadan, inshallah. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers us again in His obedience. And if we are grappling with anything,
reach out.
reach out.
Yes.
Ask your
Reach out.
friend. And if you see a friend that wants to grapple all on his own, take him by the hand
Definitely.
and bring him to where he's supposed to be.
Sometimes, wallahi, Sheikh, you're saying that now, and we're using grappling, and we know in what
Why?
context we're using grappling here.
Inside joke, people.
But you never know, man, what the person is grappling with. He's sitting next to you, he's got a condition, he's not going to say anything because he doesn't know how it's going to be received. And we have this notion that I don't want to spoil it, man. I don't want to spoil the friendship, so I'm not going to say anything. And at times, we're ready to assist.
Inshallah. Allah grant us tawfiq.
Anyway, barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
باقي على الفرحة السنوية رمضاننا قرب شوق فيها يلا بنا على باب الله ندعي سوية ربي بلغنا رمضان يا عينيا جينا نهنيكم يا اخوان وكلنا بهجة وإحسان شهر الصيام باقي له قليل يهل علينا بالإيمان يهل علينا بالإيمان قولوا لي كم باقي على الفرحة السنوية رمضاننا قرب شوق فيها يلا بنا على باب الله ندعي سوية ربي بلغنا رمضان يا عينيا
هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس